within the opposition
correct,
as well. Rahul Chopra, sorry to interrupt you there, but Rahul Shivshankar joins us on this broadcast as well.
Thanks indeed. Let's go straight across, viewers, to Mr. NK Singh. He needs no introduction, has been a long-standing distinguished economist, has been with the Planning Commission and has been in different roles, holding forth on economic policy for decades altogether. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for speaking to me. The budget was presented today on the back of what the EAC said was the need to not allow business as usual to continue. Now, has the FM, in your opinion, adhered to his advice?
She perhaps has taken her own advice. She doesn't need the advice because the writings were quite obvious. The challenges were very evident. The challenges were both international and national. So from that point of view, this is not an incremental budget. I would certainly say this is, in more ways than one, a transformative budget. It is transformative, in my view, from 3 points of view. First, from the viewpoint of fundamental changes in the structure of our taxation. I think, Rahul, you know that I was involved in earlier tax reforms when we introduced the so-called tax slabs. But this budget has gone a step further in giving a very, very significant tax break at all levels of tax slabs. And more important, Rahul, it has done so without in any way compromising with the path and the glide path of fiscal deficit and debt management. Adherence to the target of 4.4, 4.5, along with a debt to GDP target of around 51% in the terminal year, a significant downward spiral in the debt to GDP, consistent with this kind of a tax reforms which has parted with over a lakh of crores, is, in my view, a very creditable achievement. So that point of view, this budget is not incremental, it is transformative. Two other factors, and I will stop there. One is it has been multifaceted and it has been across the board and across the spectrum, significantly affected all segments of our economy. Illustratively, India is committed to the adherence of the nationally determined net zero target, which the Prime Minister in many ways authored, the so-called Paris Pact. The changes which have been brought about and how to harness renewable energy or nuclear power. I mean, Rahul, you remember, everybody, when Dr. Manmohan Singh passed away, paid him well-deserved tributes that he had authored, the famous Indo-US nuclear agreement, but we could not harness the advantage. We will now harness its advantage by the changes which have been announced and those in the offing, being able to harness nuclear power, which, by the way, that's related to my third point, that if India wants to be at the cutting edge of AI, that cutting edge requires a huge energy consumption. From where is the energy to be met? And I think that is now a credible answer that modular nuclear powers and harnessing the atomic energy, which is a renewable form of energy, would be a path forward. Finally, I would say agriculture, skill development, and being able to combine the advantages of a change in agricultural habits, genuinely moving towards environmentally more sustainable crops while making it more nutritious, in terms of becoming self-sufficient in pulses, in self-sufficient and encouraging the use of fisheries, of fruits and vegetables in consonance with the changing consumer patterns and the need for nutrition. It has addressed various segments, and the fillip which it has given to MSME, being an important provider of job and a contributor to GDP. So if you look at the whole multifaceted areas which this budget has in many ways, I would say that this is certainly by no means an incremental budget, which were many past budgets, not necessarily of Nirmala, have been, But this, in my view, is a transformative budget, looking at the far-reaching implications it has in boosting consumer preference, in boosting the availability of resources to expand private consumption, agriculture, urban development, in consonance with the changing needs of what technology has to offer.
Okay, that's an interesting point of view because, as you know, the market reaction has been less than appreciative, just to put it politely. But deregulation is the need of the hour, given the various headwinds, the desensitization really of cross-border trade and the movement of people, goods and services that we're expected to encounter in a MAGA world, in a Trump world or a mega world, European Union that wants to become great again and so on and so forth. Now, deregulation was something that was stressed upon even by the EAC. Where is that in this budget? There is no roadmap for it, some people argue.
Let me put it this way to you. I gave an example of on the atomic stuff. Isn't that deregulation? She has promised a high-level committee to look into how to simplify rules and regulations and to come up with recommendations which are credible. That's a credible effort in trying to find out the further areas where deregulation, 100% insurance being permitted. Isn't that deregulation as part of being able to attract greater direct foreign investment? If you look at the other areas of being able to attract direct foreign investment, those are all part of a deregulation process. I'm sure that what the chief economic advisor had hinted are some of these things, many of which have been addressed. Look at the whole direct tax code, which is in the offing and whose bill will be introduced next week. Isn't that regulation? Simplifying the entire taxation structure. She has hinted at not only on direct taxes, but some hints on what needs to be done on indirect taxes. The number of simplification which has taken place in the area of customs, the number of compliances which have been called off, is that simplification? Those are the kinds of changes which the CEA would have had in mind when he talked and mentioned about the need for deregulation to be an important catalyst for growth and for change.
Lastly, Mr. NK Singh, many people said that, look, we have to grow now year on year, 8% plus, if we are to become truly Viksit by 2047. Is this budget going to put us on that track, the 8% plus track?
Let me put it this way to you. If you look at the fact that the IMF says that by certainly we will become not only a $5 trillion economy, but by 2030 a $6.1 trillion economy. That implies that in nominal terms in US dollar, we would have grown in recent years at nominal terms at 10% already. So the compounded value of 10%, if you bump it up by 1 or 2 more percentage points, some of which are really embedded in many of these things which I have mentioned, the fact of adhering to the path of fiscal consolidation, I believe, Rahul, that this adherence and a credible debt plan will be an important factor in permitting rating agencies for a further upgrade of India's credit standing, which in my view was due long ago, but is more of a reality now than ever before. I believe that looking at the constellation of factors, I certainly think that the figures which have been given in the budget of the growth next year will certainly, we will be surprised on the upside of it if all the factors which have been outlined in the budget, the initiatives which have begun, are really going to see the fruition. One of the factors which you must have noticed, Rahul, that Nirmala has been one of those rare finance ministers who has always under-promised and over-performed.
Right.
Time after time on many parameters. This has been her track record. And I'm therefore sanguine that we are well on course to meet our quest to become a Viksit Bharat.